Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And a very warm welcome to you all. It would appear that we are live. My sincere apologies about last week. It was one of those things. The Wi Fi had been fine all morning. The moment I hit live, it went down. And then I tried to restart. I had to completely restart and make an entirely new stream. And then I went live. It went live for like 5 minutes, and then the Wi-Fi went down again. So my sincere apologies for that. If you were trying to tune in last week, touch wood, there will be no technical issues this week, but we shall see, shall we? A true test of Zen, where we have these technical glitches and technical errors, eh? As always, if people could just let me know if you can hear the audio okay and the video is okay for you too. We'll just see if a few join on in before we get started. But before we do anything, we can already just begin to bring ourselves into this present moment, just beginning to find that more present space, that more allowing and accepting space of awareness of just what is in the here and now. Good morning. We have all the good mornings in the chat. Very warm welcome to you all this morning. So for today's session, we will be doing a guided meditation based on Advaita and non-duality. And the guided meditation section takes around about 20 minutes or so, but we're not strict on this because it just comes down to the intuition that arises. I don't have a script or anything set. It's just what comes up in the moment. And it can be anywhere between 15 and 25 minutes, depending. So we'll see how long that the guided meditation goes on for. And then we'll follow that with a Q&A, a question and answer session, which is also an opportunity to share any insights that you may have, or you want to discuss any of the experiences that you have with meditation, either the session that we've done this morning or any general questions about the practice or principles that I discuss on my channel, or anything you'd like to discuss at all, I suppose. So let us just begin bringing ourselves into the formal aspect of the meditation. So, where possible, ensuring that there are as few distractions as is reasonable and practical. It's not always possible, and there's always going to be sounds, there's always going to be some noises. These things just happen. But where possible, we can do things like closing windows to ensure doors aren't banging. If we can, turn off any external devices, any of these screens. Even if we put them on silent, they always find a way to beep somehow. So I like to turn everything off that I can turn off. And just doing our best to create a space that is most conducive to our meditation, but also understanding that it's not crucial. It's not crucial because there's always going to be something that isn't 100% perfect for our meditation, always going to be something in the external or internal. And taking any position that feels the most comfortable and appropriate for us. A position that supports your intention to remain awake and alert. Some people find it hard to sit and so prefer to lie down. That's fine if that works for you. And by alert, that doesn't mean alertness doesn't require tension or tightness at all, but alert just meaning we are going to be open and receptive to everything that awareness picks up within the present moment. And this requires a level of diligence, of just an alertness to what is. And beginning by closing our eyes and simply becoming aware of the sensations of breathing. There's no need to force the breath in or to force the breath out. Just an opening to the awareness of the sensations of breathing. We're not trying to force the breath in any way. Simply becoming aware of the breath as our anchor point into this present moment. It's not possible to experience a future breath. It is not possible to experience a previous breath. So focusing on the sensations of breathing is a powerful way to draw the attention fully into this present moment. And we are not placing any interpretation or analysis on the breath. There is no good breath or bad breath. There is just the breath, rising and falling. Focusing attention entirely into the present moment. Recognize that there is no next moment. There is only now. And there is no previous moment. There is only now. So allow yourself to rest here for a while. There is a purity to this present moment. There is a clarity to this present moment. And recognize there is no need for any thought in order to be aware of the present. We're not trying to decide if this moment is good or bad. There's no interpretation or analysis about the now. There is just the now. If you find at any time during this meditation that your thoughts have wandered, which does happen from time to time, and you have become lost in a stream of thoughts, just gently return your attention back to the sensations of breathing and being open and aware. Expanding that awareness to include all of the sensations in the body, even the areas that are sometimes tight or tense or stiff, or even if there are areas that are just a sort of blank, we can just register the blank as well. And simply be aware of the sensations within the body without any analysis or interpretation. Simply feel this cloud of sensation as it is. And as you breathe, you can feel this cloud expanding as the awareness floods in and through the body. Recognizing it is not possible to experience future sensations, only the sensations now. So too, the sensations in the body are a powerful anchor into the present moment. Very good. Now, opening awareness to everything that the senses are receiving within the present moment. If there are some sounds within the environment around you, the sensation on the skin of the temperature or the air in the room, anything that you are picking up about the scent in the room, but keeping eyes closed for now. Noticing the sound, but placing no interpretation or analysis on the sound, creating no mental image about the sound. Just be open to receiving the sound. Also, noticing here the thoughts and feelings that continue to arise in the field of awareness. And recognize that these thoughts and feelings are much like sound. We can be aware that the thoughts and feelings are there, but it's possible to simply observe them without being involved. Simply allow them to be as they are. And recognizing that all thought and feeling arises within the field of awareness, stays for a while, and then soon subsides and dissolves away. So too, with the sound that your senses receive in the present moment. The sound arises, stays a while, some shorter, some longer, and then subsides and dissolves. Now, you are able to observe the sound, and it is fairly obvious that you can observe the sound, but you are not the sound. You are the observation of the sound. Remain as this impartial, pure awareness of the sound. Just because you are aware of the sound, it does not mean that you are mixed with the sound. You are simply the awareness in which the sound arises. Now, it may not feel so obvious, but thoughts and feelings are exactly the same. You are aware of thought, but this does not necessarily mean that you are the thought. You are simply the open, empty awareness in which the thought can arise. You are able to observe and be aware of feelings and emotions, but noticing that just because you are aware of these feelings and emotions, that doesn't mean that you are these feelings and emotions. You are the awareness in which these feelings and emotions can arise. Truly open your awareness. Expand. Stay empty and clear as the indifferent, impartial observer of everything within the field of awareness. And for this meditation, it simply doesn't matter what you are aware of. All that matters is that you are aware. Unmixed with the content of what you are aware of. Do not attach or hold on to anything at all. Simply leave everything alone. Everything. Even the sensations of the body. Simply do not get involved at all. Treating the sensations in the body in exactly the same way that you treat the external sounds and noises. a sense of just leaving everything alone as it is, and instead, all that is important now is to recognize that you are the space in which all of these sensations, perceptions, thoughts, and feelings arise within. In the same way that the clouds drift through an empty sky, be the sky in which the clouds appear. And noticing that there are an infinite number of forms that clouds can take. Any shape, any size, light, dark, almost transparent, or very dense and heavy. It makes no difference to the sky. The sky remains simple, pure, clear, open, unstained. Regardless of the nature or density of the clouds within the sky is not changed, the sky is not harmed. The sky's shape is not altered. The sky is not colored by anything that passes through. So remaining as this pure, open, empty, clear space in which everything is perfectly allowed to simply drift on through. Thoughts and feelings, no matter what form, color, or shape they take, all is well. The sensations in the body, the sensations of the breath, all sense perception, even memories about this illusory past or imagination about the illusory future, these are allowed to rise in the space of presence as well. It doesn't matter what the thought consists of, you remain as the awareness of thought, the awareness of the images, the awareness of the sensations. Simply do not get involved with any of these things. Recognize there is nothing that can happen in your experience of life that you are not aware of. It is not possible to have an experience that you are not aware of. And all of life is experienced. So, this background, empty space of awareness is always available to you, regardless of the event or circumstances. It is always possible to find this space of peace in which all of life unfolds. The empty space in which all events and circumstances take place is a space that is always available to you. No matter the situation or circumstance, you can ask yourself, am I aware? And this awareness is neutral. So even in difficult circumstances, perhaps even painful, you can use these circumstances as a way of deepening your understanding and meditative practice. Situations that would ordinarily pull you out of presence and have you caught up in a stream of thoughts no longer have the power to do so, as the open, empty space of awareness. You can simply allow all. It just is, and this too shall pass. Remaining open, empty and spacious, we will begin to bring ourselves out of the formal aspect of the meditation and moving into the more informal aspect of today's session, in which we can stay as the open space in which these questions can appear, insights and experiences can appear. But notice, as we begin to bring ourselves out of the formal aspect of meditation, it's as though the mind is waiting just outside the door, and it can't wait to pull you back in to narratives, can't wait to pull you back into your personal history and your imagination of the future. If you have found some sense of peace and open emptiness during the meditation, just understanding the mind can be very subtle and very sneaky in beginning to darken this and trying to get its hooks back in. But noticing you are always the awareness in which the thoughts arise. No matter what the mind tries to do to disturb your peace, it has no power of its own. It only has power if you give it permission. So we're giving the mind a break. We're giving the mind, we're giving the ego some time off and remain as the open, empty space. And we can shift our posture and reopen our eyes and just take a moment just to allow yourself to re-inhabit the apparent world. Noticing it's still the present moment. The present moment has not gone anywhere. And you are still the awareness. The awareness has not gone anywhere. Both the present moment and the awareness couldn't possibly go anywhere. Even if you were lost in thinking about the future or the past and you are fully, totally mind identified and very egoic, it wouldn't change the fact that it's only ever the present moment and you are aware of everything happening. So why not retreat into the awareness and let everything just play out as it always does? A much simpler and more peaceful way of living your life. No stories required. So opening out here to any queries, any questions, anything that arose for you during that meditation or other meditations, any questions you might have in general, feel free to pop them in the chat. Or if you just have an insight, if something was just an intuition arose during that, or perhaps maybe you found something particularly challenging or it was difficult, appeared difficult today for whatever reason. That's always good to know too. Everyone's unique challenges and experiences is a learning point that others can learn from too. Allow me to just grab a sip of my coffee here. I've got my the famous Sports Direct mug. It's not product placement. I assure you. It's just the Sports Direct mug is a reoccurring character on my channel. It's part of the expanded universe over here. If no questions or insights have arisen, that is absolutely fine. In fact, that is often a sign that you're doing something right. feel free to simply remain as the open awareness. Question comes in. Do you recommend daily meditation? Yes, I do. I do. Everyone is different. There's an infinite number of unique expressions of the body and mind. And because people have slightly different temperaments and different methods that speak to them, everyone is going to have a different structure for how they implement meditation in their lives. But I would, in all cases, recommend some form of formal daily practice. And the reason for this is that generally, for the majority of us, the mind has been at the forefront for all of your waking life. And so the habits are very ingrained and strong. And sometimes we have to apply the discipline to have a set time with a timer to just say enough's enough for the mind. And this is my time now to really do this practice. And if we try to do it too informally and we say, well, I'll just do it when I get round to it, it just won't happen because the mind is very, very clever. Personally, I prefer meditating in the morning on waking up, the first thing on waking up. Oh, wow, it's just started to rain here. The sound of the rain on glass and on the roof is just beautiful. Such a peaceful sound. I recommend meditating on waking up in the morning for two reasons. One, preferably it's when nobody else is awake yet. So there's fewer distractions and there's fewer interactions with people in general, not always, but in general. So it's just a more conducive environment to meditation. There's also this quality of when you come out of sleep, you've hopefully just spent quite a long period of time without much mind activity, if any. And so your whole being is partly there in that space anyway. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful and empowering because it puts you in charge. Usually, when we wake up, we have like half a second of peace before the mind crowds in and says, you need to do this today. You need to get up now. You need to go and do this. You need to go and do that. And you've only just woken up and the mind won't give you a break. But if you have set firmly, no, when I wake up, this is what I do. I am doing my 20 minutes of meditative practice. And the entire world can wait. So, to answer your question, yes, I do recommend daily meditation. 20 minutes can be a lot to start with. So, if you're just beginning practice, 5 to 10 minutes is enough. But most people often find it might take a few days, but actually you'll be sat in meditation, the timer will go and you'll just reset it. 10 minutes already. Let's have another 10 minutes because it's such a peaceful space. And once you've had that taste of that peace, this will become a essential habit. much of it depends on where you are in your journey with meditation, and ultimately you come to a space where you're always meditating. That might sound crazy to start with, but that's the space you get to, because you realize that it doesn't matter whether you've set the time aside or not. It's only ever the present moment anyway. You're only ever awareness anyway. It's just sometimes there's more activity that you're aware of, and other times there's less activity that you're aware of, and that's it. A famous Zen master said, meditation isn't what we do, meditation is what we are. So eventually that daily meditation practice just expands out. But that is, I would suggest for most people, that's quite far down the line. To begin with, just a formal practice. It's also quite a powerful thing if you have family, and or you have people that you live with, or you have quite a busy social life or something like that. When you start sort of telling people, right, I do this 20-minute meditation thing, so try not to disturb me for that time. There's power in that. There's an empowering that happens there, because people shouldn't have access to you 24 hours a day, but that seems to be the norm that we have at the moment. Whereas when you powerfully set this aside, you reaffirm to yourself and to others that this is my time away from all of that. And this is my time to simply abide as the presence of awareness. And there is great power in that. And you'll be surprised at just how much people will respect that as well. And then this reaffirms that, oh, it's okay to disengage. In fact, it's one of the most healthy things that you can do. Let the world sort its own problems out. I'll save the world tomorrow. But now, no. I'm just going to abide as the presence of awareness, and all is well. If you are more scientifically minded and would prefer some of the harder kind of numbers and data, the studies show that it's 20 minutes of daily practice that produces the changes to the brain structure and the brain chemistry, that reduces the levels, clinically reduces the levels of anxiety, stress, depression. And this has all been backed up and shown in numerous studies over many, many years. Many years now. And yet, we don't teach it in schools. They don't encourage it in workplaces. I don't know. The mind is very, very subtle and very, very sneaky. But yes, the scientific studies show that 20 minutes a day will produce the permanent changes that result in that lasting sense of inner peace. And it only takes about 2 weeks of practicing to really start feeling those benefits. But I would recommend, alongside that daily practice, that the most simple and powerful practice that you can do at all times, even when you've come out of the formal meditation. The most simple and also the most powerful is presence. Because the concepts that I speak about, I say concepts, language is a very imperfect tool when it comes to speaking on these matters, because language is involved in the world of things, objects, and stuff. So language isn't really designed to speak about these things. So sometimes it's a bit confusing or clumsy. But the concept of emptiness and the concept of just be the awareness and just be the space, that's a lot. That's a lot. But most find that the concept of presence and staying present that has a bit more solidity to it, that it's possible to, right, that's something I can practice. And with presence, it becomes habitual. So let's take quite a common scenario. You've done your morning meditation, you're 20 minutes and you are fully at peace, fully there, totally, it's going to be such a nice, peaceful day. Even though I've got work today, it's going to be nice and peaceful today. And then you get up and start moving about and you have your breakfast, and it's not long until something in the mind just starts going, oh, will it be peaceful today though? Because there's that person at work that's a little bit tricky and they're in today and they sent that email last week and I'm going to have to deal with all that stuff that they said and did. And it's not long until, because of the habit that we're in, you start following that narrative, that stream of thought, and before long you're like, oh, it's going to be an awful day, and you've completely forgotten the peace that you'd only experienced just an hour before. And in that situation and scenario, as soon as you can, just try to snap the awareness back into full presence, back into that full right here, right now. And you can always ask yourself, what's the problem now? Because the mind has brought to mind the difficult coworker, the nasty email, the parking ticket, the relationship that's on the rocks, your money problems, your finances, the warning light in the car. It's the mind that has brought that up. But in the present moment, you're just, I don't know, waiting at a bus stop. In the present moment, there's no problem. The mind created the problem. So that's the key, that's a key principle and practice. That's a very powerful way to begin developing a lasting and invincible peace. Because just bringing into, but what's the problem now? Which isn't to say that there aren't things to take care of at some point, but when the time comes to take care of the thing, it's still the present moment. When you respond to that email, it will be the present moment and it won't be a problem for you. It's just typing on a keyboard and hitting send and off it goes. And that coworker that's a nightmare, well, in the present moment, they come into the space of your awareness. They're a nightmare because they always are. You know this. You're aware of it. So they're not able to get under your skin or manipulate you or do any of the things that they usually do that's very annoying. But now it's not really annoying because, well, that's them and this is me. So whatever. You just allow that irritating space of energy to just be there. And this too. It's just like watching a storm cloud pass. It's like, yep, there it goes. Storm clouds gonna storm, aren't they? And people are gonna people. People are gonna carry on peopling all the peopling day. And that too will pass. And it's still now, still present. And naturally, it's impossible to stay in that present state if you haven't practiced it before, because your entire life up until this point, you have been conditioned to stay locked in a stream of thought. The apparently external world conditions you, but you also condition yourself because of our little anxiety feedback loops and everything. And it's just the way the mind is. The mind is an infinitely hungry and ravenous attention hog, and it wants your attention 24 hours a day if it can get it. And we fall into the trap of feeding it constantly. But the most rapid way to inner peace is to just back to presence. The mind will have a lot to say about it. Well, because it will, won't it? Of course, it's going to have a lot to say about it because it knows its days are numbered. The mind is time bound. The mind can only exist if you believe in a future and a past. The mind can only exist if you are fully invested in the personal story of the ego. But without those things, the mind has to take a back seat. And that's why you sometimes find you keep pulling yourself back into presence and the mind just seems to get louder and louder. Well, just let it. And the more we practice the formal daily meditation, it's like training, like when we train the body to get stronger and we lift the heavy weights. We do that in a gym to lift the weights and push the machines and run on the treadmill and all that. But when you're training, you don't do it to be strong in the gym. You train in the gym to have a fit, strong, healthy body in your daily life. All of the benefits of that health and strength and fitness carries over into daily life. And it's exactly the same when it comes to meditation. Because sat in formal meditation without distractions, it's your chance now to clearly observe all of the tactics that the mind tries to pull your attention away. And it is fascinating to watch the myriad ways in which the mind tries to do this. It will start with, you don't have time for this. And you just don't pay that any attention. And then it will say, you're not in the right headspace for this today. You just don't pay that any attention either. Then it will say, you should be using this time to sort that thing out that you need to sort. No, I'm not interested in that. And then a dark memory will arise. Well, okay, that's a surprise. And you're just about to follow it, but then you realize, hang on, that's the mind trying another trick. No, I'm not engaging with that dark memory. Then an embarrassing memory, that's a powerful one. You said something cringy 10 years ago, and the mind decides to try that. You go, no, I'm not interested in that either. And then the mind will switch tactics and go, you know what would be more fun than meditation? If we read a book, if we listened to some music, if we watched a program, that'd be more fun than this boring meditation you're trying. And you realize, no, it's just you've just changed tactics, but you're still trying to do the same thing. You're still trying to pull my attention away from the present moment and the space of awareness. And This is the training. This is the meditation. It can be a bit frustrating or apparently frustrating because you're like, oh, this is exhausting. It's just one thing after another after another. But never lose sight of just how powerful this is. Because up until you learned this practice, you followed every single thought, every single image, everything the mind came up with. You didn't know you had a choice. So this is the formal training. Training is obviously an imperfect word to use. We could say you're deepening your understanding of how your own mind works. So powerful. And you begin to sift through just the rubbish. You manage to just start dismissing the noisy parts of the mind very easily. And every now and then, some deep intuition will arise that has some quality of thought to it. And it comes from a deep intuitive place. And you go, okay, that was good. That was something. Just some intuition about your life or about yourself. Or so it's just like, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, got it. Or a deep intuition about the nature of the meditation that you're doing that just deepens into, oh, I get it. I get the awareness thing. I see now. I'm the open, empty, spacious field of consciousness in which this all arises. And it doesn't matter whether it's the sound of the bin lorry outside, the garbage truck outside, or whether it's the mind with its attempt to say, you can't do this, you won't get it, you can't do this today. It's the same thing. It's just an object that's arisen within the space of awareness. And oh, I can disregard that, withdraw the attention from that, remain as the space and the liberation. And when those moments happen, nothing will ever be the same again. Never again. These are powerful, deep recognitions that radically shift the quality of peace and presence in which your life unfolds. So that's quite a long-winded answer, but yes, I recommend daily meditation. Are there any more questions, queries, insights, experiences? Feel free to pop them in the chat. I had my first big glimpses of freedom in a daily formal meditation that I learned from the book Finding Peace in a Frantic World, which was my introduction to meditation. It's a very scientific, secular introduction to meditation. And this was back when I was recovering from anxiety, depression, addiction, and I was obese and losing all of the weight. And one of the things I just knew that I needed to sort this anxiety out. It plagued me my whole life. Somebody recommended meditation. I was in a very receptive place. So I was like, sure, let's give that a go. And I was skeptical because I'd tried so many different things. I was skeptical about this thing, but I was reading it, and one of the things that it recommended was this meditation. And I'd gone for some time just trying to practice, but I was just sat there thinking, I was like, this can't work. It's like breathing. Okay, yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm breathing, but I'm always breathing anyway, aren't I? Da, 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 da. But then one day I was sat on my bed and I was just doing the usual. Yeah, I'm just sat here. I'm saying I'm meditating, but I'm pretty sure I'm just sat here breathing. And I was watching thoughts, and then I became aware of the space between two thoughts. So when one thought was there and it was in the field of awareness, and then it moved on and the next thought was coming, But because I was practicing presence and trying to stay fully present and aware, even though it was a split second, it was no time at all, but I was aware just for a second, half a second, a split second, that there was a space between thought. And that split second is enough of a crack for your whole life to just open wide. Because there's a lot of subtle thoughts that pretend to be peace. When you're very relaxed, when you're maybe when you're drunk, maybe you're on something, or you're engaged you're in some entertainment or something, you're distracted or immersed in something. That's an approximation of peace. It's a facsimile of peace. But you're still thinking. You're just having relaxed thoughts. But this was different because I was aware of the space between the thought. And that was a peace that I hadn't felt since early childhood, very early, before the world had got in. Infancy, probably, just that wide-eyed open wonder, no thought, no mind. And even though it was a split second, that's enough. It's a nuclear blast of peace, true peace. Broke open. And naturally, I wasn't particularly well practiced, so I got lost in the next thought. I got really tied into it. And I was like, blah, right back off in my usual patterns of anxiety and everything. I was lost. But I could not forget that peace that was there. And naturally began a very strenuous process then of trying to get back to that place and abiding in that place. And there's no such thing as time, so I can't say it's taken time, but with some discipline and practice, the amazing thing, I mean, that little moment was like diamond. It was like gold, and I was like, oh, just desperate to feel it again, only to realize all these years later that space between thoughts is the space that we're in all the time. The space between those thoughts was actually the space in which the thoughts arise. And that's how to make that peace permanent and invincible, is to realize, oh, it wasn't a space between thoughts. The thoughts were arising within the space. It was a misperception. Now that's deep. What was glimpsed in that moment was as one thought subsided and then into the next, I was aware of the awareness right in that space, aware of the space. And the deepest insight really is that if you're aware of the thought, then you are not the thought. You are the awareness of the thought. And that's liberation, unimaginable liberation, quite literally unimaginable, because it's not an image. It's not a mental projection. It is the reality of consciousness. Because in the early days, there's just that frustration. You feel like you have no choice. You feel like you're constantly lost in thought and you're trying to get back to peace or trying to evoke peace or create peace or change the circumstances around you so that you can be at peace. You feel like if I just figure things out enough, if I just work things out enough, then I'll be at peace. But eventually just coming to the realization, but I'm always at peace. I just keep forgetting. And once that recognition of peace is established, ironically and somewhat paradoxically, you find that you just begin to arrange your life in a more peaceful way. You don't bring so many frantic or chaotic activities or people into your life anymore, because why would you? And the negative habits, the negative people, the negative jobs, the negative relationships, all of those things that you were battling to get rid of, turns out you don't need to battle them at all. You just leave them alone, don't engage, and eventually these things just they go away. And they don't arise again because there's no ego that is desperately trying to attach to the external world in order to fulfill itself or to alleviate its fear or to satisfy its desire. Because there's no ego there anymore, there's no sense of the individual identity. There's no more desperate clinging to things. There's no more desperation to have something or to be something or to, even in the spiritual terminology, this can happen. You even let go of this idea, I need to become awakened or become enlightened. Well, the ego was desiring that, but even that falls away. You realize, oh, but I'm always there anyway. It just is. You're already, there's no real such thing as enlightenment. It's just the recognition of the space of peace that's always here anyway. And the negative stuff just begins to fall away, and it reveals shining all of the wonder and beauty of life, all of the joy, all of the love. And that's the space in which you move. And you find that your circle may get smaller, but it's far more quality. You only engage and resonate with people on the same kind of frequency, the same sort of emotional frequency. And so there's only positive people in your life because you're not desperately trying to. We all do it to a certain extent. We're not trying to simply what's the word? Alleviate our insecurity by just having a lot of people that we can label friend, 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 friend. But in the egoic state, when we're not in a very peaceful state, we don't realize sometimes just how draining low consciousness people can be. I'm not trying to be judgmental, although I'm aware that sounds quite judgmental, but unconscious or low consciousness people are just exhausting to be around. But you have no need to, you don't require approval anymore. So they can go. And just the purity, the more genuinely fulfilling activities just begin to fill your life up. Comment. Meditation is helping me overcome panic attacks so much. A pure gift. Thank you for the input and peace. Believe me, the pleasure is all mine. One famous quote says, the best way to learn is to teach. And I have found that to be very true. So when I say the pleasure's all mine, it really is. That's amazing that it's, meditation is helping you to overcome panic attacks, because panic attacks can be debilitating. They're very powerful and they can stop you accessing your life. And there you go. I mean, it's right there. Meditation. It's not just some silly thing that we do. It's powerful. I don't understand why it's not it's not widespread at all. And there's so many misconceptions about it. But Hey, I'm hoping for a world in which just gently and subtly more people will become aware of a more peaceful way of living, and hopefully that energy can radiate out until we have a more peaceful world. Because you have to ask yourself, if everybody meditated and found some inner peace, would we still have all the problems in the world that we have? I wouldn't have thought so. Not nearly as many. And then eventually there wouldn't be any. Because we create the problem. Problems aren't inherent to reality. We made them. We, meaning humanity as a whole. If everybody was at peace with themselves, there'd be no need for heaven because we'd already be there. And the way I see things is that your life can be heaven on earth. Your life in this incarnation that you're in now can be heaven, or it could be hell. That property isn't inherent to your life. It's just a choice of what you choose to engage with in reality. It just all depends on the parts of the world you wish to engage with and the perspective of how we face the inevitable challenges, the inevitable setbacks, the inevitable struggle and pain. Those things are going to be there. But if we can find a way to make peace with life, that will be the heaven on earth that we're all seeking. The peace, the bliss. It's to accept it all, to take the knocks as well as the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights. It's, all is well. And ultimately, the background space, the conscious awareness is always at peace. It's neutral regardless of what comes up. And it's that consciousness, the unmixed, pure, impartial consciousness that observes all, that is the same one for everyone. It's a unified whole. Which is why the more at peace you are, the more compassionate you feel, because you can see the shared being. We are not separate. Nobody is separate from anyone or anything. And that becomes so apparently clear the more at peace you are. You would have no wish to harm others because you see there are no others. It doesn't become hard. It's not a difficult thing to extend love to the world when you realize that your nature is love. And it's just a shame that this love is so clogged up by this highly egoic world. But you're awakening to truth, you're awakening to the pureness of your being, of your conscious awareness. It will automatically, even without saying or doing anything, it will automatically raise the consciousness of everybody around you. You know those people that when they walk into work or they walk into a room, everybody just feels more at ease. There are certain people that when they walk in, everyone feels relaxed. And there are other people when they walk in, everyone's suddenly on guard and clenched teeth and, oh no, they're here today. And we want to be that first type, right? And you don't even have to say or do anything. It's just the more at peace you are, the more your peace will radiate out and hopefully will have an effect on the people around you. I'm aware we're coming up to an hour and 15 here, but I still have steam. So if anybody has any more questions, queries, insights, or comments, please feel free to pop them in the chat. And if not, we'll probably begin to wrap it up there today and go and have a wonderfully peaceful, blissful day. I hope people have very peaceful plans. It is Sunday after all. Nothing to be done. When was the last time you had a day in which there was just nothing to be done? Because nothing needs to be done. Activity can unfold, that's fine. But nothing is really happening. Nothing ever did happen. Nothing ever will happen. Ooh. What is the best method for opening and unfreezing the heart from the egoic prison? Great question. Your heart is not in an egoic prison. Your mind is in an egoic prison. Your heart belongs to the pure, open, empty space of consciousness. Just be aware of the ego. Be aware of all of its patterns. And ultimately become aware that the ego is an illusion. The ego is just a mask. And the ego doesn't have that much power, really. All we have to do is stop believing that we are the individual, temporary, finite body and mind. As long as you're identified as the individual, temporary body and mind, it is inevitable that ego will arise. Remain as the open, empty space of consciousness in which the body-mind arises, and see clearly that the awareness will persist after the body and mind has gone. And you're no longer so interested in this narrative. Drop the story, close the book, throw it away, and just be as you are. If we feel like the heart is frozen and blocked and closed, then it will be, if you believe it is. But this is the mind trying to convince you that I'm powerful, that I have you. You know, there's this story, you're damaged, you're cold, you're hurt, you're damaged, you're frozen, you're closed and clogged up. It's just another story. Just drop the story. Your heart is always open. Just be that space. And there's no rush. We can't force this. You can't force the heart to open. There's no rush for it. Just abide as the space of awareness. And don't be so interested in worldly things. It's almost like don't even worry about the narrative of I'm trying to open my heart. That's just another story ultimately. It's a beautiful story. And it's a wonderful, the urge to do that comes from a very pure place, a very clear place. So the urge to have a yearning for your heart to be open is you've intuited you don't feel free. But be aware of the narrative, the story that's building up around it. And it's actually just don't engage so much with the story. Don't worry so much about worldly things, and bring your heart home. You're trying to extend your heart outwards to other people, but first, before it can do that, the heart needs to come home and rest in the space of presence. The heart needs to rest in peace. The heart has been tied up and caught up with the mind and lost in this bizarre, painful story that the mind creates about life and the world. It's time to drop all of that and bring the heart home to a space of peace. And we say about unfreezing the heart, well, bringing that frozen heart home to the space of peace will be like putting the ice cube in a warm bath. It may take some time, but it will dissolve. And the thing about the ice cube in the warm water is that the ice cube rejoins the water. So your heart needs to rejoin, to come home and rejoin the space of peace in which it's always resided, but it forgot. I'd probably also add, many spiritual practices are there to rid you of the ego. So don't worry about freeing the heart. Worry about removing the ego, and then all will be well. The heart will naturally be free then. It is a great question. I can obviously only speak to sort of my experiences, the Corin Bryant pattern, body mind. But this is why I found Advaita, non-duality, to be so powerful, because it's a very direct path to just removing the ego. That's good. I'm really glad, PCP. Bring it home first. Yes, bring the heart home first. Yeah, that's powerful. If you begin treating those sort of more vulnerable and softer parts inside like you treat a child, basically. Like a child needs a loving home, a loving, comfortable home in which the child is provided for emotionally as well as physically. As well, it requires safety and comfort and love, and to be heard, to be seen, to be respected. These are all the things that a child needs in the home life in order to the next day go out to school and be able to access the life at school, to be able to interact with friends in a healthy way, to be able to engage with lessons in a healthy way. And if there's something in the home life that isn't working, the child doesn't feel safe and secure in the outside world. And the child will grow up feeling unsafe in an outside world and unsafe around people because the home was not secure. Exactly the same with your heart. with the softer, more compassionate emotion body, the vulnerable side inside. Bring it home. Bring it home to the safety, the security, and the comfort of the infinite, open, empty ground of being. And you'll find there's an infinite space in which all of those things are provided for. Infinite love. The heart can come home. I think that's probably where we'll begin to wrap things up. Oh, there we go. Healing chronic is best just to a question. Some advice coming through there: when healing chronic fatigue and nervous irritation, is it best just to allow and sit with the symptoms? The fear keeps in a free state. Oh, it is a separate question. Sorry, I misread. I see. Okay. When healing chronic fatigue and nervous system dysregulation, is it best just to allow and sit with the symptoms? The fear keeps in a free state. Okay. So there is a nuance here. I think it's alluded to somewhat there in the question. Because sometimes in some situations and circumstances, meditation could actually be the wrong approach for what it is that we're struggling with. So there are some cases in which people are suffering with something along the lines of a depressive mood disorder, low mood turning into a depressive episode. And in those cases, what we try to encourage people to do is actually, although it's really tough, trust me, because I've suffered with everything you've said as well, the chronic fatigue, nervous system dysregulation, but also with low mood and depression. This is just an example. When with the low mood and stuff, it's actually best to get out, to get moving the body, to try and keep interacting with people, to try and engage in some more active pursuits, because that will help to provide the space of energy that can lift somebody out of that low mood. And you might find in some cases that if somebody's struggling with something like that, because it feels very comforting to be, as I know, inside with the curtains drawn and just shut off, that actually meditation can seem like quite an attractive prospect to the depressed state. And we're actually accidentally having the opposite effect. And so with the chronic fatigue that you mentioned there, and nervous system dysregulation, I would say that's actually coming more into a problem in the relative world, in the body-mind world. And I would say that's one of the best things that we can do for that is actually physical exercise. I talk about it sometimes on the channel about the physical training burns out the adrenaline in the system, and it resets the nervous system and all of that. But it's not always possible to do that, which is very difficult especially if the chronic fatigue and dysregulation is due to a physical ailment that is making the exercise impossible, or for whatever reason it's just not. If you're unable to access more conventional methods to recover from the symptoms, because as you mentioned, you're maybe stuck in that freeze state, sitting with and just observing can be a very powerful way of just lessening the suffering of the symptoms. So we have the nervous system's dysregulated and chronic fatigue, it sounds almost like there might be something's just being released there. There's something, the body's just unhappy. There's a dysregulation there. But in the present moment, as the space of awareness, without any jumping into a narrative, without jumping into any mind activity whatsoever, experience the state of their agitated nervous system and the heaviness. Chronic fatigue is that heavy feeling. But understand that no matter what the state is that the body is going through, which can be very, it can be very dark, very painful. Again, it's from experience. But even then, you are the awareness of the body. You are not the body. You are the awareness of the body. And so, without narrative, without description, without mental image, just feel the sensation and ask yourself, is this so bad? Naturally, we would rather it's not there, but in the present moment, without the narrative and story, there's a denseness to it, there's an agitation to it, but that's all. Now, in doing that, that will help and go some way to alleviating the fatigue and the dysregulation, because we're not adding to it the suffering associated with the narrative, the suffering associated with the story. Because when the mind gets involved with the symptoms in the body, all kinds of stuff starts to come up. It starts saying, this isn't fair. I can't access the life outside. I can't do the things that I want to do in life. And if you're in that state because of something that somebody did in the past or some terrible circumstances that happened, the mind will keep revisiting that event or that situation. And then we're adding a lot of mental suffering to the symptoms. But the meditative state can help you with those particular things that you mentioned by removing the mind activity, remove the narrative, remove the story, remove any description even of what you're sensing. This is how we remove the story. There's no description. Remain as the open, empty space of awareness, aware of the sensations in the body without any labels, images, or words attached, just breathing into it. And the denseness and the agitation is revealed to just be another sensation, just like any other. A sensation the same as the temperature on your skin, the same as the taste of water, the same as the sensation of breathing. It's just another sensation. And in that open, empty space of awareness, the density, the agitation is allowed to just be. I would then recommend as soon as possible, as soon as it feels feasible, when sat with that, this is what I find, because I've had both. Okay, I've had the chronic fatigue and the nervous. I've had pretty much everything, to be honest with you. I've experienced a number of different things, and I find that in all cases, meditation, at the very least, alleviates the suffering associated with what's going on. But then the moment, this is what I find, say I've been feeling low, I've been feeling like I'm going into some kind of depression, but I sit in the meditation And just through that conscious awareness, aware of the depression, aware of the low mood, and then there's a lightness of energy that begins to pervade. And then as the lightness of awareness, the energy begins to pervade, then I go, right, good. Now I'm going to get up. I'm going to have a decent shower. I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to go out. I'm going to try and speak to a friend. I'm going to try and get some exercise today. I'm just going to try and lift myself out of this mood. And before you know it, I'm walking down the street and, oh, okay, right. I feel lighter now. I feel okay. I feel energized now. And it was the meditation that facilitated that. Because previously, before I was aware of this sort of stuff, I'd have just locked onto that depression, and it wouldn't be long until I was really suffering. But somatic tracking and just accepting the sensations and bringing love to it. Yes, being curious. That's it. Bring love. Love is never going to be the wrong thing, is it? Love is always going to be a beautiful thing to bring to any situation. Love will remove the judgment. Love will remove the attachment. Love will remove all of that, and just be nice to yourself sometimes. It just is. And accepting there's a level of the body goes through these ups and downs. The body's weird, you know. I'm a personal trainer by trade, and over the years, with all of the study that I've done into anatomy and physiology, biology, and then all of the study into the way the mind works and the brain chemistry and everything, I've been doing that for about 10 years, and I've only become more and more confused by the body and brain. It's weird. It goes through such strange phases. And sometimes you're in a period of really good health in which you're just flying and you can't even remember what pain even feels like. You can't even put yourself in the mindset of depression and anxiety. It doesn't even make any sense. And then other times you go through periods of you just get every ailment under the sun. You just think, what is the point? This thing just feels like it's breaking down on me. We just go through these periods, and it's one of the major kind of breakthroughs, maybe, that you would say, or one of the major intuitions and awakening insights was, I mean, there's nothing more liberating and freeing than recognizing you are not the body. That's huge. That's when it's like, wait, what? Surely. When you realize, no, I'm the awareness of the body and the cloud of sensation that is the body. I've believed that to be myself, but here's one to ask yourself. So if you want to take something away into the rest of the day, to really get to sort of try and really deepen into a very mystical awakening, into a very opening and freeing way of looking at things, is to ask yourself, did the body ever say, I am you? Or have you assumed that at some point? Did you assume that because it felt so obvious? Well, and then you start to realize that, yeah, there was just at some point, it just appeared so obvious that I am the body mind that just became, that's a no brainer almost. But then you have to if we want to go really deep into this and really start freeing your mind, is just to see if you can pinpoint the moment at which the body actually, when did the body say to you, I am you? Yeah. I think that's probably whereabouts we're going to leave off today. Thank you all so much for listening today. That's been a wonderful session. And thank you for such insightful and deep questions. These are such good questions. And you have to, this is your, if you're having these sorts of questions and you're having this sort of seeking and searching, you're way ahead. All right. I don't feel like if you have questions and stuff and you're trying to figure things out, that puts you, you're way more than half the battle there. It's just such a powerful thing to begin searching through. So thank you so much, everyone. Don't forget to hit that like button on your way out. That's always appreciated, helping me spread and grow the channel. I think I've got a couple of links in my description here if you wanted to buy my guided meditations that you can download on MP3. There are 33 guided meditations. So if you enjoyed this one today and some of the principles that we discussed today, there are meditations that will, there's guided ones with backing tracks, and they've all been audio remastered to have high quality. And if you buy them, you can download them so you get ad-free listening and you can just listen to them anyway. You don't have to have your Wi-Fi on if you've got them downloaded onto your phone. So the link's in the description for that one. I've reduced the price down to £7.77. And my book, Empty World, is also available on Amazon. You can get the Audible version as well, in which I narrate it. And Empty World is 4 practices that begins with the principle and practice of presence. And then we move more into a visualization that I developed that helps one to truly understand and embody the non-dual understanding, the Advaita understanding of emptiness, openness, and peace. And feel free to check out all my other videos. And beautiful, beautiful stuff. But more importantly, more important than anything, keep practicing. Stay vigilant, stay present, stay empty, stay open and aware. You could become fully liberated today. All that is required is the sincerity of seeking. Namaste. Namaste. Take care, be well, and stay present.